Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Homeschool Minnesota. My name is Dale Annan. I'm so excited to have you guys with us today. We have back with us one of my favorites from before, Dr.
Oh,
Rich Griffith, who I really, really like. And you guys, I know you're going to like him too. You're going to remember him from back. I will link his other podcast in the show
oh,
notes here that you guys can listen to his other one too. But Dr. Rich Griffith has written another book along with his co-writer. Is it Dr. J.J. Jones?
Dr. J.J. Jones,
Dr. J.J.
co-editor and
Jones.
writer.
Yep. And it's called
Right.
Reimagining Church as Family. This is the book right here. This book takes a long look at how family dynamics have changed. I think we all can see that in our culture today, that family dynamics have changed. They're not the same as they were before, and how the church can be better equipped to meet the needs of families in their community. But also, guys, remember, we're a homeschool community. When I say church, I mean all of us together as a collective. We are the church, correct? So as a community, how do we meet the needs of people who are coming into our community in a non-traditional family way? We're going to talk about all of that. But first, I want to welcome Dr. Griffith. Hi, Rich. How are you doing?
Thank you, Dale. Again, always a pleasure to be back with you too. And we always have some great conversations, and we go through most of it even before we get on air.
I know. We get
It's so much fun.
We get to talking and catching up, and then we're like, wait, let's not waste it here. But
So,
I want you to just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, because you have a non-traditional family setup.
I do, and it's interesting. One of the things I'll tell a little about myself, but it weaves in how this book came about. So, if you get people who are in family ministry, and if you get 10 family ministry practitioners in a room and you ask them, what is your definition of family ministry? You'll probably get about 9 different definitions.
Yeah.
And what we realized is that there was how we were defining family ministry through age and stage, and particularly nuclear family, which is all good. There's a need for that. What we were not doing was defining family theologically. And this is where my story comes in, because there's a part in the scripture where Jesus is teaching and the people say, Jesus, your mother and brothers are out there waiting for you. They want to talk to you. And he says, well, who are my mother and brothers? And he looks around and he says, you're my mother, brother, those who are doing the will of God,
Yeah.
right? So for me, I'm a single individual with 3 adopted sons, right? That was in the former podcast too. But even on church staff as a pastor, an ordained clergy member, I always felt like a fifth wheel. Because, right? I mean, so, and look, and here's the reason I adopted sons is because of James 1:27. Religion that is pure and faultless in the eyes of God Father is this: to care for orphans and widows in their time of distress, and
Yep.
keep oneself from being polluted by the world. Now, again, I jokingly say I should have gone for the widow first.
You got
It might
things
have been a little
backwards,
easier.
Rich.
I know, right? There's the story of my life, right? But here I am, a pastor on staff, trying to fulfill James 1:27 and be in obedient, because I fought that call for 4 years. And I felt like a fifth wheel, because my churches were great about doing married people big night out conferences, and they would care for their kids, and they would give them food, and they have a great dinner and a great speaker and worship. And I'm sitting there going, man, my soul is hungry for this,
Community.
because I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't get to get those things and staff. So I challenged our leadership and said, man, as a single parent, I'd love to have something like this for single parents, or even be invited along with the other parents, right? And their response was, well, we're not ready for that yet. Well, honestly, that's been 15 or 20 years ago. I don't think they still have done anything like that.
Wow.
And so here I am, a person who's trying to follow God's will, and I felt like a fifth wheel. And fact of the matter is, we've idolized the nuclear family. Don't get me wrong. We strongly support the nuclear family, right?
Absolutely.
There's good to that.
Yep.
But we've idolized it. And the funny thing is, nuclear family is a post-World War II construct. So what we're trying to do is say, well, how do we theologically define family ministry? So that's a little bit about myself, and become a firm believer, just even in years of youth ministry, that we lose 75% of our young people that grew up in the church, right? We spend all this money and effort. And why?
Yeah.
Because they're disconnected, right? You think about the average church on Sunday morning. It's one of the most segregated institutions, not only by denomination, but by socioeconomics, by the part of town you're in. and then get inside the church, and children go one
Yep.
place, parents go another,
Ages.
senior adults go another, and so they're not together. You were
Right.
going to go say something, Dale.
I immediately was like, no, we separate them by ages. We just kind of everybody
Yeah.
goes their little directions. And while that is valuable and necessary in a lot of ways for a lot of different
Right.
things, I always think about like, we have father-son things, we have mother-daughter things, we have
Right.
father-daughter things, mother-son things. What do you do if you're a single mom who has 3 boys and there's
Right.
no father and there's a father-son event coming up,
Mm.
a camp out or a retreat, and
Yeah.
there's no father to take your kids, but all the
Yeah.
other boys are going and you're just like, "There's nobody to take my boys."
Right.
Um, what do you
Yep.
do? And, we
Mm.
all know we see the differences in families. We see the single moms, the single dads, the
Sure.
grandparents, we're gonna talk about that, who are
Yeah.
parenting grandkids.
Right.
We see a lot of dynamics, even like the maybe the mom who's married, but the father isn't going to church, the
Right.
dad who's going to church, the mom isn't going to church. There's
Sure.
so many dynamics there. Can you explain the significant cultural shifts
Mm.
in what a family is and why should
Mm.
we as a church and as when I say church again, guys, remember it's community. As a
Yeah, the body of
community,
Christ.
as a body of Christ, how do we minister to that as a homeschool community when we have them coming into our co-ops and we have them coming to our field trips and we have them coming to our events? How do we change our approach to minister to families as a whole?
Well, this is gonna come across really strongly, but,
Oh,
um
great. Everybody just turn it down for a minute. No, just kidding.
yeah, yeah, I think we gotta stop being so judgmental.
Yeah.
Again, unless somebody sits down and hears my story and I sit over a cup of coffee with them, they don't know
Yeah.
why I'm a single dad with 3
No.
kids, right? So we make assumptions, and the fact of the matter is when we make assumptions, it actually drives wedges in between rather than pulling us together.
Mm,
I wanna be real clear here. We're not saying do away with nuclear family, and the
not at
book, it
all.
celebrates nuclear family, right?
Yep.
We're not saying do away with affinity or age-related ministry. You're not gonna talk to a 6th grader the same way you would a young married couple. At least I hope not, right?
Yeah. No, you really shouldn't.
No, probably not. So, but here's what's going on. And then I know pastors would hear this and church leaders would go, well, look, we already have all these other ministries. Now you're going to ask me to do a grandparent ministry. No, I'm not even asking you to do that.
No.
We're actually saying that if we become church as family, we can do away with some of the other programs because we think about family this way. When you come together for Thanksgiving, yes, you may have the kids' table, but you're all sitting together at the table. You're all having a meal together, right? So, how do we intentionally engage in discipleship that is less judgmental, less affinity group, less program driven? Programs are easy to do, right?
Yeah.
The family's messy. You know that, right?
It gets ugly.
But the ugliness can be celebratory.
Yes.
And what I mean by that is, okay, yes, let's keep affinity ministry. Let's focus on healthy nuclear families. But in the meantime, how do we also say, look, here's a single mom who lost her husband in a car accident and people forget about that. And
Yeah.
now she's raising her 3 daughters. And instead of us being judgmental about, oh, why is she a single mom? Right.
Yeah.
And building programs and discipleship toward that, we just say, wait a minute, can we have more opportunities where we would come together as church, as family, and for the single mom who has 3 sons or 3 daughters who can't afford to go to camp?
Mhm.
How do we disciple each other? How do we say, hey, we're going to bring these surrogate spiritual grandparents into the lives of this family so that they can help nurture these children as well? And when we think about sending kids on mission trips or camps and the single mom can't afford it, how can we walk alongside of them and say, we don't want you to
Yeah.
lose out or your kids lose out because they don't have the funding for it?
Right. Right. I think the thing that I think about with families, like, I like how you said, we all come together for Thanksgiving and we don't all sit, segregated. Like we don't have everybody come in for Christmas and go, this is where the grandparents' room where they're going to do their Christmas. This is the kids'
Right.
room. We all come together. This is where the conservatives are going to sit in the family. This is where the liberals are going to sit in the
Right.
family.
Right.
We
Yeah.
all come together. We walk in a lot of grace towards each other because we're family.
Yes.
Do we get on each other's nerves? Yeah. Do we rub each other the wrong way? Of course. But the Bible does talk about iron sharpening iron. Sometimes that's a
Yeah.
good thing.
Yeah.
I think we get, because it makes us uncomfortable, we don't want to be there. but actually God calls us to be a little uncomfortable, and family is a really good way for that to happen. And in a
Yeah.
church, if we're looking at it as a family, and when that mom does lose her husband, things like who's going to take care of the car, who's going to make sure the lawn gets mowed,
Right.
who's going to make sure that the house gutters are cleaned, who's going to make sure, little things, you know, people in the church can take on those roles to help out with those
Yeah.
things and make sure
Yeah.
that she doesn't feel, I mean, she's going to feel that loss, obviously, but there are parts of the loss where she should not have to feel that. Do you
That's
know
right.
what I mean?
Yeah.
She shouldn't have
Oh,
to
absolutely.
feel those things. And the
Yeah.
single, like the grandparents, okay, this is where I'm going to get, because I'm a grandma. Just the last week, we have been taking care of our two little grandsons. We
Sure.
are exhausted. I don't know if you can see it. But I have gained about 10 years of my life like this last
Yeah.
week.
Yeah.
Love them. They're awesome kids. Our kids are great parents, and those boys are behaving. They behave well,
Right.
but they're
Right.
little boys and they're active,
Yeah.
and we aren't quite so active anymore in our life, you know? I mean, we do things, but
Mhm.
it's like trying to keep up with them and all the emotions and all
Yep.
the,
Mhm.
just the activity is insane. And I think about
Yeah.
grandparents who have to take on in like the parenting their grandchildren.
Right. Yeah.
They're not in the time of life. All their peers are empty nesting. All their peers are free to travel and free to,
Yeah.
go to do lunch after church with everybody
Yeah.
because, they don't have anything at home waiting for them, and they don't have to do nap time,
Yeah.
and they don't have to do, homework assignments and all the things that parents need to do. They've
Yeah.
already done all that. So now they're just free to do whatever. But those grandparents who are parenting children, they don't
Yeah.
get to participate in that anymore. You
Yeah.
know,
So yeah,
Go
yeah, oh,
ahead.
sorry, go ahead.
No, no, go ahead.
Well, what's interesting about this is that as our culture has changed,
Yeah,
back to one of your initial observations and questions, our culture has changed. The number of non-traditional nuclear families is almost equal to the number of traditional nuclear families, right?
yeah,
And again, some of that is not by anybody's bias or fault. Like I said, I'm a non-traditional family,
yep,
right? But here's the interesting thing: as family sizes have decreased, so has the support.
yeah, see,
And this is why younger generations like millennials and Gen Z, one of the reasons they're going back, for instance, to the Catholic Church is because there's a sense of belonging, there's a
yes,
sense of stability, there's a sense of ownership, there's a sense of identity. And why
responsibility,
is that?
yeah,
Because the Catholic Church is saying, we want to accept you as family, right?
yep,
So I don't care what your denominational background is. Every age group is looking for belonging. I had this observation not too long ago too. We know that like developmentally, the primary task of adolescence is identity formation, right? But here's what the epiphany I had. We still go through identity
we
formation.
do.
For instance, when you're an empty nester, your identity changes.
Mhm,
When you become a grandparent, your identity changes. But without a family to help you navigate that and what that looks
yeah,
like, and in this case, the church family, we should be supporting and discipling each other to help each other through all these different identity crises.
mhm. Yeah, it's an opportunity to do the whole Titus 2 thing,
Exactly,
it's an
right? And
opportunity.
we've lost that. We
Yeah,
have lost basic biblical principles,
yeah,
right?
yep,
And so here's why I'm convinced we do programs really well, so to speak, but programs aren't discipleship,
no,
number one.
mm-mm,
They can be, but they're not.
mm,
But programs, the reason we lean into programs, frankly, programs are easy to measure. How many
yeah,
people did we get to come? What did we have a common outcome? But you know what? Discipleship is a lot harder to measure.
mhm,
Relationships are a lot harder to measure.
mhm.
And yet, those are the very things we need to be engaging in.
Yep, and programs have, like, a beginning and an end,
Right.
so it's real
Relationships
easy to
don't.
just you only have to commit for 6 weeks, or you only have to commit for this long, or you only have to do this much, and,
Right.
when you're allowing yourself to be a part of a family in a Christian
Mhm.
community, you're taking on, like, that like, family just that doesn't you don't just have them for 6 weeks or 18 years. I mean, they're
Right.
there forever, and whether you like it or not, that's just it.
Yeah, well, and that's the unfortunate
Yeah,
family dynamic that is going on in our culture. Secular
right.
culture is family has become disposable.
Yes,
Right,
yes.
and it's based on emotions and whether the
Mhm.
person makes me feel happy, but listen, I know with my adopted kids, I knew that there was a chance even before I adopted them that they got 18 and they could say, "I'm done with you, I don't want any more to do
Right,
with you." But see, my love for them is not about how they make me feel, that's selfish.
right.
My love for them is a commitment that says, "I will always be your dad."
Yeah, yeah, that's so good. So talking about that, can you talk a little bit about systematic abandonment?
Oh, yeah, one of my favorite topics.
I know.
So, yeah, and this is a real, crucial issue. So systemic, people sometimes we just in an interview recently where the person said systematic, which means intentional.
Right.
And there is some of that. I don't want to get into that, but since you asked the question, systemic abandonment is basically for when it comes to young people, it's like all the institutions that are supposed to be about the healthy nurturing of young people have been hijacked by adult driven agendas.
Mm.
I know you see this going on in your state.
Yeah.
It's not about what's really in the best interest of the student and the child who is developing. And again, to be a little brash here, sexual politics is systemic abandonment,
Mhm.
right? It's sexuality discussions and conversations like that should be left to the adult world. And by the way, this is not a even Christian perspective. It is, but
Yeah.
like Dr. David Elkind has been writing about this for decades since the 80s, the hurried child, all grown up, no place to go. He's got another one called Ties to Stress, the new family imbalance. But this systemic abandonment has been going on for a long time that we're not meeting the developmental needs of our young people for their benefit.
Mhm.
And this is why Gen Z and millennial are labeled the most lonely and anxious generation.
Yeah.
We've not been feeding into them. But I would say this too for our grandparents who are retiring, whether they have grandkids or not to raise, here's how we do systemic abandonment in the church. When we say things like, well, we want to start reaching younger families. Okay, that's great. But what are you communicating to the older people in your congregation who put the blood, sweat, and tears and time into your church? And I know you're not saying anything negative,
Right.
but maybe we need to nuance. And again, my word that's been sticking with me for the past 2, 3 years now is intentionality.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to be more intentional about, yes, we could say, yes, we want to reach younger families, but you know what, seniors, we need your wisdom. We need your involvement to make it happen because you're still a crucial part of this family.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, not in your zeal to reach a certain aspect of the community, not abandoning another community and making it so
Absolutely.
that they're not comfortable there anymore. I mean, I know so many older people and I'm not there yet. I mean, I do love, but they struggle with like modern worship. They
Oh,
struggle
yeah.
with
Yeah.
the way that our
Mhm.
services are run. They want more traditional setting.
Yeah.
I know of a church that they have very much a modern worship service, but what they
Mhm.
do is they also have now in a smaller chapel
Mhm.
alongside the modern service because it's just the best way to work it out.
Yeah.
They have 2 services during the week. One is on a Sunday morning, another one is on a Wednesday night where they do what they call quiet church. And
Uh-huh.
so
Uh-huh.
it's more of an acoustic set, it's more,
Mhm.
traditional hymns, some regular worship songs thrown in there,
Mhm.
that we're used to, that we like. And it's just more of a calmer setting,
Yeah.
and you know what they found is that families with children who have,
Yes.
like, autism
Yes.
or some
Or
kind of a yeah,
overstimulated anyway.
that's actually a really good service to
Yeah.
bring your kids to,
Yeah.
and it wasn't even what they started it for. It
Right.
just turned out that, "Oh, I can bring my children to church because this is"
Yeah.
it's not like the drums and the lights and the
Yeah.
the loud music and the loud preaching and the loud it's more
Yeah.
of a it's the same thing, and it's still
Yeah.
community in the same church, but it's something that works better for our family.
Right.
And I
Yeah.
love that. I love that
Yeah.
sometimes God goes, "Hey, you didn't even know you were gonna reach this because of that."
Right. And yeah, and young adults are going back to if I can talk to a mentality though behind that,
Yes,
which is good. I love that they're doing that. It still is a little
it
segregated, but let
is.
me let me tell you more about the mentality behind what we need to be looking at. So if we're really going to nurture each other, right? And I think you heard me say this before that before it was called discipleship, it was called
Yes.
Christian nurture. So if we're going to Christian nurture each other, I'm going to step on some toes here.
Ye
Our older people need to understand that contemporary worship speaks to the heart of young people.
yes,
So we need to have that element. And here's the thing look, older people were used to being taught and everything's head knowledge, but it's got to get to our
it
heart, right?
does. Yep.
Young people, when they're developing, there's a Bloom's taxonomy talking about teaching the head, heart, hands. Well, you're talking to young people, you have to teach to the heart because 80% of change comes from the heart, right? Older people, we don't necessarily need so much change. But here's the thing if I'm going to nurture my young people, my congregation, it's worth me saying, you know what? Contemporary worship is not my preferred, but maybe we can have some contemporary worship together
Mhm.
so that I am reaching my younger person. I'm willing to die to myself for them.
Right.
On the flip side, our young people need to say, well, you know what? I value the wisdom and the longevity of some of the deeper theology in our hymns, and I may not care for hymns and stuff, but as a sign of maturity, I'm going to sit with my elders in the church and listen to the music that speaks to their head
Yeah.
because it has stood the test of time. It does have deeper theology.
Yep.
Why not do some of both,
I
right? And
agree.
yeah, of course, you can have your separated too, right?
Yeah.
You could do that. But the point being is, even if you took some traditional hymns, put a little more contemporary, but not so noisy music to it, there are ways to accommodate that. But the point being is, Jesus says we're called to die to ourselves,
Yes.
not do what just we feel like we like the best.
Yep. Yep. We need to be
As
uncomfortable sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, and as a
It's okay.
parent, how many times did you sacrifice things for your kids because you were the more mature one,
Constantly. We know that.
right?
We know that mom, puts the little staple in her glasses because her child needs glasses and she can wait. That's
Yeah.
just how we
Oh, yeah.
do.
Yeah. And but that's spiritual maturity.
Absolutely.
And as older people, we have to model that first. And listen, I'm older. I do love contemporary music, but
I do
I
too.
I have an affinity for traditional worship too.
Yep.
Here's the thing. Again, it's not about the style. It's about my heart.
Exactly. Yep. If you come
I'm
to
getting
church
preachy.
with your heart, like one thing that I've always said to people and kids when they're like, "Well, I don't know, that church just doesn't seem, I don't feel like I'm being used there. I don't feel like," it's like, well, okay,
Mhm.
but if you come to church with a heart of, I'm here not to be fed. I'm not here
Right.
to be worship I'm not
Mhm.
here to be like feel good. I'm here because I'm serving God. This is what
Yeah.
I'm doing. This is my way.
Yeah.
My spiritual act of worship is to come to a
Yeah.
church. Bible tells us not to forsake the coming together of the
Right.
believers. So we do that because we're being
Right.
obedient. But also, I'm I feed myself. I make sure during the week that I'm taken care
Yeah.
of. I don't wait till
Yeah.
Sunday or whatever day of the week you happen to go to church.
Right.
My church happens to me because it's a campus ministry church and it meets in a house where students live. We actually do
Right.
Saturday night so that we're not,
Oh,
Sunday
cool.
morning, woo, while they're trying to do whatever it is they're doing.
Yeah.
So we do Saturday night. But it's like, if for us, just different things. It's like, I think about like if we come to church prepared to, we're here to reach out. We're
Yeah.
here to
Mhm.
minister. And
Yeah.
and we're here to not just go in, do what we need to do and get the kids and go.
Right.
That will change the aspect of why I think a lot of criticisms that we have of each other,
Right.
a lot of criticisms we have of the service itself would kind of just go away. And I feel like then the family aspect of what we do would come more naturally to us.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
how can churches just, and Christian communities better meet the needs? Now, you can speak to this to single
Yeah.
parent families. Like, what are some things that we can
Yeah.
do to make them feel, and you know what? And their children. When we started
Yeah.
going to church when I was a little girl, we were actually not even brought by my mom. My mom had been divorced twice.
Uh,
And
mm,
this was back when it wasn't really cool to be divorced.
yeah.
There
Yeah.
wasn't a lot,
Sure.
and we from a small town. There weren't a
Right.
lot of divorced people in town.
Yeah.
Um, an older neighbor just started taking us to church with her, so we didn't even go with a parent.
Right.
And,
Right.
we were those crazy bus kids kinda who got bussed
Yeah.
into church, that everybody's
Yeah.
like,
I was one
"Ooh,
of those too for a little
who do
bit.
they
Yeah.
belong to?"
Yeah.
And we,
Mhm.
and it was a blessing though, and then through that, my mom came to know the Lord and met my
Right.
dad at church,
Mhm.
and my dad adopted us, so we're all his.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
but we were his anyway. I mean, we were meant
Right.
to be
Right.
his no matter what.
Yeah.
But, I think about, like, my mom and the specific needs that she had as a single mom with 3 small
Yeah.
kids.
Yeah.
Like, how can Christian communities be more family to single
Yeah.
parents and their children?
Yeah, again, I think, and this is where you'd have to get to know some people in your church that you can trust. And we all hear horror stories, but at the same time, you've got people who have been saints in the church for a while, never had any accusations brought up because there's nothing going on, right?
Right.
But at some point, we need to be willing to say to the single mom, "Hey, you look like you could really use a date night, right?" Or not a date night, even
Just
because
a
I
night
feel where you're
out.
coming. Trust me. Yeah, right. Or just a night out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Just where I can have some space, respite. We call it in foster care. We call it respite.
Mhm.
Right. Parents need respite. Sometimes it's not, listen, as a single dad, you know how many times I get tired of cooking every single day, right? And you probably get this in your shoes
Yes.
too, right? But imagine being a single parent and you got nobody even to talk to
No.
about it. Sometimes it just takes, I know this is going to sound So simple, but we've made discipleship so
Yeah.
hard, and it doesn't need to be. Sometimes it just takes a couple of willing, invested people to say, "Let's go grab a cup of coffee when you're available." "Oh, you can't because you have kids?" Well, let's find a way to take care of your kids.
Mhm.
And maybe it is a single parent night where they do have a single parent night, right?
Mhm.
But I would say too, but then you feel like you got leprosy, right? "I'm unclean. I'm a single parent. I
Yeah.
gotta go to the single parent things all the time," right? My thing is, why not find things that are intergenerational, right? Where everybody can come together. Okay, here's the best way I look at it. I don't know if you've ever been to a family camp, like a true church
Yes,
family.
yes.
All right. So when you go to family camp, what are your kids? Do you feel like you have to hover over your kids all the
No,
time?
they run all over.
Why?
Well,
What's
because
that?
everybody's there and everybody, they know whose kids are whose and they can see everybody, it's just a safer environment. You don't feel like you have to like watch them 24/7.
The kids are having a ball, the
Yes.
parents are having a ball, they're having respite, right? If we can get the feel of church family camp in our churches,
Wow.
right? And we
Yeah.
could do simple things like that, why
Yeah.
not?
That's so good.
Why not? It's just, and
And
again,
it's
here's the thing,
easy.
intention, right? It's easy and intentional. We don't have, oh, I'm gonna sound like a sacrilegious heretic. We don't we, we don't have to have a Bible study for every single thing,
See, this is why I like
right?
you, Rich.
How many times did Jesus have a Bible study or a
Right.
Torah story, a study with his disciples? No,
Yeah.
it's Deuteronomy 6 is as you go, right? Your best discipleship is as you go. Matthew 28, make a disciples. As you go, make disciples.
Right.
All this stuff we're supposed to do to learn to live together as Christ's family and with Christ is supposed to be meant as we go. Have more meals together.
Yeah.
Have more celebrations together. Have some rites of passage together. I don't know what it takes for every individual church to do that,
Yeah.
but stop playing church and start being
I
family.
love that. Stop playing church and start being family. We don't play at being a family. We just live life together and do the thing. And it
Amen.
just comes together. And if it means maybe your church couple times a month does like after church we're just all going to stay, everybody bring food and we're just going to hang
Yep,
and the kids are going to play and the adults are going to talk and
that's exactly it.
that's family dinners
Yeah,
a couple
right.
Sundays a month or one Sunday a month and
Because
yeah.
families aren't doing that in their families because 'cause they're so
No.
stressed and so busy.
No.
So imagine getting to that. Listen, I'm gonna throw a really crazy idea out there. Ready? So for your church, if you can do this even as a smaller church or a mid-sized church, why not every second Sunday of the month, you actually do a brunch church
Yeah.
and people bring breakfast casseroles and you might do a short homily and stuff, but it's about being together as family. I love, again, Glanville, I can't remember his first name. I've quoted him before, but he's a theologian. He said Jesus ate his way through the Gospels.
He did. They're always
It's
making
so true,
fish. They're always, eating
right?
figs.
The original potluck family,
Right.
right?
They really did. Come and have
And so if you think of
breakfast. My husband's favorite verse in the whole Bible.
right, exactly, right. Well, here's why. It's a common need. Everybody has to do it.
Yeah.
And if you have a single mom who's exhausted and you just tell her, "Hey, we got you covered. You don't have to bring anything. Just
Yes.
come sit with your family." I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it.
Yeah, yeah. And how that can translate, it doesn't even have to be like church. Like, yes, that's important, but as a Christian community outside of the
Yes.
church, this is how you get to know what the needs of those families are. So one of the things is like if you're sitting in a co-op, let's say a homeschool co-op, and you've
Mhm.
got a mom there and you sense that she's really struggling,
Yeah.
don't tune that out when you get back in the car with your own family and you go home and
Right.
you go about your life. Forget that mom was struggling that day and you heard that struggle. Figure
Right.
out how can we meet that struggle. Let's get
Yeah.
together as a community and say, she's really having a hard time, you guys. What can we do? Maybe let's just all everybody make, like, if you're making dinner tonight, make two. And
Yeah.
everybody that does that just puts it together. We freeze it. We just drive it over to her place. I'll volunteer to come and pick it all up. And we'll
Yep.
just drive it over to her place and go, hey, we wanted to fill your freezer for you.
Yeah.
We
And
feel
just
like you
love on
might
her.
need this.
Yeah, and if there's people in your church have kids the same age,
Yep.
say, "Hey, you know what? I'm gonna take why don't you let your kids come with my kids? We're gonna go out somewhere public and we're gonna go play at the playground or whatever and stuff like that,"
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
What a gift that is, and it's so simple, and we don't have to make it
Absolutely.
hard.
Get involved in
So,
each other's lives again. How about that?
yes.
Put down the
Yes.
phones, turn off the TVs, turn off the computers, get away from the tech and all the things that are like faux social, faux community,
Yes.
faux fake intimacy, and really go for the real thing. and see what
I
God does. What could God do? How could
yeah,
he transform your life, your kids' lives, by
your
you
community.
being intentional with other people and their needs?
Yeah, I've literally started saying to people, you know how we do the thing at church, "Well, how are you doing?" "Oh,
Mhm.
I'm fine." And I will stop and I'll say, "No, stop, hold on.
How are you?
Seriously,
Yeah.
how are you doing?"
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised how the answer changes all of a sudden, just with a little bit of intentionality.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah.
Man,
So
every time I talk to you, Rich, I never get to the end of my questions.
I'm sorry.
No,
Well,
it's
here
no, because it's so good. And yet we answer as I'm going through, I'm looking and I'm going, yeah, we pretty much answered them all. But
yeah, well well, here's I'm gonna give you another because a
yeah,
lot of people struggle with, "How do I really do this?" Right?
yes.
It's simple. Do a night of bingo. You can
Yeah.
have 1,000 people in your church playing bingo. It won't matter. And one other thing too. So we talk about young people being the youth of the church of the future, but we do nothing to prepare them to be the church of the
Yes.
future, right?
Yes.
I have 4 year when they were 4, they would fight to take up the offering at church. What a great problem.
Yeah.
And I'm a firm believer that anything an adult can do, a young person can do if they're mentored in it.
Have them shadow you, pastor.
Yes.
Have them
It
shadow
does.
you,
Yep.
worship leader. Have them shadow you, social media person. You know,
He's exactly
grab a
right.
few, pray about God who highlights somebody to me, and then have them start working, bring them into your life. They're not going to come to you. You need
Right.
to bring them
Right.
in. You need to go out there and find them and bring them in to your life. That
Yes.
is what God called us to do. Jesus did that. He didn't sit on the beach and wait for Peter and everybody, James and John and everybody to come to him and go,
Yeah.
"Hey, what can we do for you?" He said
Right.
to them, "You come and follow me. Come and follow
That's the
me."
spiritually mature.
Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
I love it.
Oh,
So I get into this because I sit there and go, again, it just takes a little bit of intentionality. Anybody can do this if they're just willing to take a little bit of extra effort. It
yeah.
doesn't take much, it's a little extra effort, right?
Yeah.
So
So
I love
easy.
that. So you can write the next book. You got it.
Oh,
You're
oh my
there.
gosh, like with all I've got to do. I'm just kidding.
Once you get
I
done
guess if
watching
you
that
have
your
nothing
grandkids.
going on, all you have to do is write. I mean, you don't know.
Right. Oh man, if
All
you
the
only
good books
knew.
have been written. I mean, I get to deal with these. These are great.
Yeah.
Well, everybody,
Yeah.
I just want you to know how much I just really, Rich, his writing is so good. I was telling him I didn't even get a chance. I just got this book a couple weeks ago, and with everything I've had going on, I've gotten to read part of it, peruse the rest of it, read the back end of it. But his other book on discipleship, I got to read cover to cover, and it was easy peasy read because he
Oh,
writes
thanks.
really engaging, really engaging. You guys, he writes the way he talks. He's not like he talks and then you read him and you're like going, who is this person? I mean, how he talks is how he writes. And I love that. And he doesn't really beat
Oh,
around the
thanks.
bush. I mean, this is the other thing I was telling my friend today earlier when we were talking about this
Mm.
particular podcast. I said, the thing I like about Rich's books is they're only about that thick because he doesn't
Yeah.
do all the fluffy things. He just gets straight to the
No.
point. He deals with it. He
Yeah.
moves on. And that's this one here. Look at that, you guys.
Thank you.
So easy. You can
Yeah,
do
and
that in
it's
a day or
they
two.
all they're academically based too. What I do
Yes.
is because I serve as a doctor in a college and I
Mhm.
serve on different boards. What I find is there's a big disconnect between the academic and the practitioner,
Right.
and I find my goal in life to be to connect the 2.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
So
well,
good.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so, so much. And of course, again, like always, in the show notes of this podcast, you're going to find all the links you need, including a link to the previous podcast that we did on discipleship that you are going to not want to miss because it was really good and it challenged me. And his book challenged me. And I actually passed it on to a couple people who said the same thing. They're
Oh,
like, oh, I got, yeah, they were
oh,
very blessed by it. And so I
thank
just
you.
wanted you to know that too. Um,
Thank you. Well, this is new because social media is such a mess.
yes.
I actually had somebody create an actual website for me. It's very difficult to remember. You ready for it? drrichgriffith.com
Woohoo! That'll be easy.
with a DR, just DR Rich Griffith. So yeah.
Perfect.
So if anybody wants to chat and how like ministry leaders, how can we incorporate some of this in our church and
Yeah.
stuff? I'd love to chat with them.
Yeah, have
So
him come and do a conference for you guys, you
thanks.
know?
Thank you.
Yeah. Anyways, thanks so much, Rich. I appreciate you so much, and God bless you.
Thank you. Always a pleasure to be with you. And it's good to have some good laughs.
It is. It's fun talking, isn't it?
Yeah.
I like to talk to people who like to talk back. It's good.
Yes.
All right. And to my listeners, thanks for listening. We'll catch you next time.